On March 8, 2014, the most sophisticated tracking technology in human history blinked. We were told it was a tragedy, a ghost plane, a pilot who snapped. But ghost planes don't manually disable their own transponders. Tragedies don't fly tactical evasion routes for 6 hours. And pilots don't silence 239 people without a reason. Tonight, we ignore the official report. We ignore the noise. We're opening the file they tried to seal. This isn't the story of a disappearance. This is the anatomy of a crime. To understand a crime, you have to look at the timeline. It wasn't messy. It was surgical. 12:41 a.m. Takeoff. Conditions perfect. 1:07 a.m. The ACARS system, the plane's digital link to the ground, sends its final transmission. 1:19 a.m. The pilot's voice checks in. Good night, Malaysian 370. Calm. Controlled. 2 minutes later, the transponder is severed. Not malfunctioned. Severed. Someone in that cockpit reached over, turned a dial, and made a 200-ton aircraft invisible to civilian radar. And then they did the unthinkable. A hard left turn, a maneuver so aggressive it pushed the airframe to its limit. This wasn't an autopilot error. This was a pilot flying hands-on. He wasn't dying. He was working. Beat. Silence. The plane didn't crash. It went dark. And for the next 6 hours, it flew into the void. That is the crime. In the days following, the narrative shifted. First, they searched the South China Sea, then the Strait of Malacca, then the Southern Indian Ocean. Why? Because the governments involved weren't sharing data. They were hoarding it. Malaysia has military radar. Thailand has military radar. Indonesia, Australia, the U.S. base at Diego Garcia. Do you really believe a massive Boeing 777 flew through one of the most militarized zones on Earth and nobody saw it? They did see it. Reports surfaced later, classified initially. That military radar tracked an unidentified aircraft banking and weaving, skirting the edges of airspace borders. It's called fence riding. It's a technique used by drug runners and military defectors to stay invisible. The relevance is terrifying. If they knew where it was going, why did they let the world search the wrong ocean for a week? Let's look at what was on board. And I'm not talking about the passengers yet. The manifest listed 4,566 kilograms of mangosteens, fresh fruit. But underneath that was 200 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries. Batteries that were not screened at the factory. Batteries that were loaded onto the plane without security knowing their true origin. The official theory? A fire. The batteries ignited, filled the cabin with smoke, everyone passed out, and the plane flew on autopilot until it ran out of gas. Except for one problem. If the plane was on fire, why did it fly carefully along navigational waypoints for hours? Why did the communication systems shut down sequentially? First the ACARS, then the transponder, rather than all at once, which happens in a catastrophic power failure. Then the math. The Inmarsat satellite pings. The only evidence we have that the plane ended up in the Southern Indian Ocean. But independent investigators have flagged these pings. The frequency shift doesn't match a standard drift. Some experts believe the data was spooky, man-made, or perhaps the plane landed somewhere else and the pings were a digital decoy. They blamed the pilot, Captain Zaharie. They said he was depressed. They found a flight simulator path on his home computer. It was the perfect cover story, the rogue pilot. But let's talk about who else was on that plane. 20 employees from Freescale Semiconductor, experts in electronic warfare and stealth technology, and 2 men traveling on stolen passports. Interpol dismissed them as migrants, but intelligence sources suggest a different story. And then the shadowy figures. For passengers whose full backgrounds have never been fully declassified by the Chinese or Malaysian governments. If you wanted to disappear a person or a piece of technology or a patent, how do you do it? You don't kidnap them on the street. You take the whole plane. You fly it to a remote airstrip, or you ditch it where no one can ever salvage the black box. The motive wasn't suicide. The motive was acquisition. July 2015. A flapper washes up on Reunion Island. Then a piece in Mozambique. The world exhaled. See? It crashed. But look closely at the flappering. Marine biologists pointed out that the barnacles on the debris didn't match the species native to the crash zone timeline. It was as if the debris had been in the water, but not that water. Or perhaps it was planted there to stop the questions. To close the case, we are approaching the 10-year mark. The search has been called off. The files are sealed. The families are told to move on. But the math doesn't work. The radar doesn't work. And the silence is the loudest clue of all. Flight 370 didn't just vanish. It was taken, and somewhere in a locked drawer in Kuala Lumpur or Washington or Beijing, there's a file that explains why 239 people had to die to keep a secret. From the Unsolved archives. If you believe the official story, keep scrolling. If you want the truth, hit subscribe. We're just getting started.